Hey YouTube, this is Stack Bracket and I'm going to be going over how to fight the Pumpkin Moon and make it to the final wave. And I've done this method twice, and both times I made it to the final wave. And I haven't died either time except for at the end, like after it's over, because I forgot I had the non-jumping gear equipped. In this section I'm going to be going over the gear you should have before attempting the Pumpkin Moon. First off, you should definitely have the Spectre armor for this method to work because it helps you life leech, which makes you pretty much invincible. And how it works is for every X damage you deal, you get X health back, and the health that you get back is just a small percentage of the damage you deal, but it still is enough to make you practically invincible. And for the accessories, make them all menacing, and you're going to want Mechanical Glove, Sorcerer Emblem, Destroyer Emblem, and Celestial Stone for these three increase your damage so that you get more life leech also. And then this one, it not only increases your damage, but it also increases your critical strike and life regeneration, defense, pretty much everything. And then you're going to want Magic Cuffs because it restores mana whenever you're damaged. And if you're using a spellcaster setup, then that can be helpful. And then for potions, you don't really need any of these except for Magic Power. You don't really need these ones. They don't help that much. They help a little. And then you're definitely going to need Pumpkin Moon Medallion. And then for the weapons, you're going to want the Demonic Nimbus Rod. Demonic is the best modifier. And also the Heat Ray with the best modifier, which is mythical. And the Nimbus Rod, it shoots rain down at enemies. And it pierces enemies, and it's a magic weapon, so it's going to give you more life leech. And they expire once every minute. So you're going to have to replace your 2 clouds every minute. And then the Heat Ray, it pierces enemies also. And it has really high DPS. And it uses a pretty low amount of mana. So basically you want piercing weapons, but also you can replace the Heat Ray with the Bat Scepter, because the Bat Scepter doesn't pierce, but it does go around objects and basically shoots bats that home in on enemies. And then you're going to need a hook with like an okay range. It doesn't need to be like super long like Spooky Hook, but it needs to be like probably like 10 blocks, or no, 15 or 20 blocks. And then that's pretty much all the gear you need. In this next section, I'm going to be going over how you should make your arena in order to maximize the damage you deal to enemies in the Pumpkin Moon. What I've done is I made a room right above my arena, so that if I die, you usually won't die, but you can spawn right next to your arena and just teleport down and restart. And I've done 2 statues, so you don't need these, but they help a little. But I'm gonna replace them. Okay, so these dart traps aren't necessary up here. And then this switch toggles these blocks on and off. In case you want to use the Bat Scepter, they should be on. Or if you don't want them, it's fine if they're off. But if you're using any other weapon, they should be off. And also, if you're using the Bat Scepter, you shouldn't put a teleporter right here because it makes an obstacle for your bats to get past. And then I've done 2 1-second timers. to max it, and they're both hooked up to these two statues. One is on the bottom, one is on the top, and that maximizes the amount of hearts and mana that spawns. And then also the 1 second why there's two is this one. This one just goes to the oh, and that's my tunnel. It helps you collect drops without going in the lava. But the reason there's two 1 second timers is because the one on the right, it goes to all these, the back ones, not the front ones. These back ones, which is the flamethrowers and dart traps. And I have alternated flamethrowers because I don't have enough to do all of them flamethrower. And then bouncy balls. You might be asking why I put solid blocks under traps. This is because if there's solid blocks, if there's at least two, it'll hit it and then bounce up. And I'll show you. Wait. So that one activates the pit traps, just the back ones. And then the 1 second timers maximize the darts that it can shoot. Because if it's just hooked up to one timer, then both of the sets of darts will shoot at the exact same time and it won't increase damage at all. But if you time it just right and it goes through the middle, and then activate the second timer, they'll shoot on a more consistent basis. Like that. But you'll see that the spiky ball traps are bouncing up and creating obstacles for monsters that are walking on the ground. And there aren't many flying enemies. There aren't many minor flying enemies in the Pumpkin Moon. So there's just one, which is the Poltergeist. And then I have Campfire to increase health regeneration. And then I have Crystal Ball to give me the Clairvoyance buff, which increases magic damage by 5%. And then the Heart Lantern, which again increases life regeneration. And the reason, let's turn these traps off. Oh, and then I've got spear traps right here to shoot spears. But you don't really need those, they don't help that much. Alright, and then the reason I've got this overhang is because hellhounds, they're like the dogs that jump really far. The reason I've got this overhang right here and this block right here is because if you do these two blocks, it'll minimize the chances of a hellhound jumping on into your little safety square and jumping up there and jumping up there, because they'll run and then they'll run up and then they'll jump and then they'll hit this block right there and then they'll fall, or if they don't hit that block, then they'll jump and hit this one and fall. And the only enemies that are really a threat to you using this arena is the Morningwood and the Pumpkins, but they aren't that big of a threat since you're pretty much invincible. I'll explain the limitations in the next section. Now I'm going to be fighting the Pumpkin Moon, and you need to wait till nighttime. But since I'm using the Nimbus Rod, you're going to want to make it go as high as it can, and still hit the bottom of the arena, which is right here. This block will block it from going any higher and not hitting the bottom. And I also put lava to damage the enemies, the weaker enemies. It won't kill the larger enemies like morningwood and pumpkins, which you'll have to kill yourself. The way the pumpkin moon works is each enemy, when you kill each enemy, they give you a set amount of points, and you need that set number of points to move on to each wave, and each wave has a different set of enemies that you need to kill. The higher waves have the larger enemies like the pumpkin and the morningwood. And which is why you want to prioritize the larger enemies since they give you more points when you kill them. So you should prioritize the pumpkin over the morningwood and the morningwood over the headless horseman and so on. Activate your traps before night starts. And then activate the clairvoyance. And grapple. And don't use your potions right now because they only last 2 minutes. You should wait till you actually need them, which is when the morningwoods come in. And then activate your medallion once it turns nighttime. But make sure that you don't die, because if you die, then you're not going to make it to the higher waves because it puts you back a lot of times since you start off with a low amount of health and enemies just keep killing you until the end of the pumpkin moon. Unless you get lucky and get back to where you were. But it's pretty hard to do that. And then use all your accessories. Activate your pumpkin moon medallion. And the longer potions you can use right now, like this one lasts 15 minutes, which will be enough to last me the whole pumpkin moon. So I'm just gonna eat right now. And I'm gonna cast my Nimbus rods. And just cast them whenever you have a chance and you're not being attacked by the larger enemies. But even when you are being attacked by the larger enemies and it's out, you're gonna want to cast them, or else you're gonna get way less life leech. Once the morningwoods come in, you can use your potions. And each time you do this, each time you beat the pumpkin moon, you get about 500 spooky wood for the armor. So you need to beat it twice in order to get the full set of armor. And a few enemies might make it through to your safe zone, like the poltergeists and the hellhounds, but not very many. You need to watch your Nimbus rods to see if they run out, and then you need to cast new ones. And also you need to watch your 2-minute spells because they run out pretty frequently. They're not very important. They're not that important though. Just use them when you have a chance. Oh yeah, I'm gonna recast my Nimbus rods. You can tell how far the pumpkin moon is by the location of the moon on your screen. If it's halfway across your screen, that's half done. So mine's about half done right now. And the more enemies you can hit at once with your heat ray, the more life leech you'll get. So it actually becomes easier as you get more pumpkins and morning woods. Okay, now I'm going to recast the Nimbus rods. Just be sure to recast your Nimbus rods quick or else you might die. But definitely recast them whenever you have the chance. I'm going to reactivate my spells. But you're only invincible while you're dealing damage. So you want to be dealing damage as much as possible. That's why you need the Nimbus rods at all times. I'm almost at the final wave. And you'll notice that there becomes an increasing amount of pumpkins and morning woods. The final wave is just pumpkins and morning woods, and they swarm you, which actually makes it easier since you get more life leech. And there's a huge amount of them now. It's probably like 10 of them. And one of the best items I think that you can get from this pumpkin moon is the Horseman's Blade, which is one of the best swords in the game. It's pretty much tied with the Terra Blade. I personally like the Terra Blade more, but some people like the Horseman's Blade more. And the fairy dust and the spooky twigs can be used to make the best. Well, some people think it's the best swings in the game. I think they're second best because of the hoverboard, which can go faster horizontally, but not as good vertically.